Lisa Johnson's first day at her new school started with excitement and promise. With a hopeful heart, she boarded the yellow school bus, ready for new adventures. Her parents, Nina and Malcolm, watched her leave, eager to see her thrive in their new neighborhood. Yet, behind the friendly smile of Mr. Miller, the bus driver, lay a hidden darkness that would soon unravel. As weeks went by, Nina's maternal instincts grew uneasy. Her fears about Mr. Miller, a respected figure in their predominantly white neighborhood, seemed unfounded until Lisa's once cheerful stories turned into cryptic mentions of the bus driver's mean behavior. Nina's growing concern clashed with Malcolm's dismissive attitude, creating a rift in their attempts to protect their daughter. The sense of dread intensified when Lisa's once bright spirit began to wane, overshadowed by her growing discomfort. Nina's determination to uncover the truth leads to a painful revelation that shakes their community and forces them to confront unsettling truths about trust and safety. Join us as we explore this gripping story of a family's journey from hopeful beginnings to a heartbreaking struggle for justice. Don't forget to share where you're watching from and subscribe to stay updated on more compelling stories. If you are not subscribed, I recommend you subscribe and activate the bell so you don't miss any videos. Before we dive into this story, please let me know in the comments where you're watching from. Lisa Johnson, a bright-eyed 8-year-old with an infectious smile full of innocent wonder, stepped onto the yellow school bus for the very first time in her new neighborhood. Her mother, Nina, watched with a heart brimming with both hope and trepidation as the bus doors closed behind her precious daughter. Little did they know, this seemingly ordinary day would unfold into a nightmare neither of them could have foreseen. Mr. Miller, the seemingly affable bus driver with a grandfatherly air and a deceptive smile, masked a malevolent secret that would soon cast an ominous shadow over Lisa's life. Beneath his benign exterior lay a chilling darkness that threatened to unravel the safety and trust Nina had worked so hard to build for her family. As the days passed and turned into weeks, Nina's maternal instincts screamed in horror, sensing that something was profoundly wrong. In their predominantly white neighborhood, her growing dread about Mr. Miller, an otherwise revered figure, seemed unvoiced and perilous. What harrowing deeds were taking place on that school bus? And how could one mother's unwavering resolve to protect her child ignite a chain reaction that would unearth a community's hidden, shocking truths? Before we delve into this harrowing tale of bravery and revelation, let us know where you're watching from today. If this gripping story strikes a chord with you, don't forget to subscribe and stay tuned for more. The warm summer breeze whispered through the leaves of the ancient oak tree, standing sentinel before the modest two-story house. A moving truck, now a distant rumble, departed down the tranquil suburban street, leaving a family of 3 standing on their new front lawn. Lisa, the vibrant 8-year-old with dark curls and a sparkle in her eyes, hopped on her toes, absorbing the unfamiliar but exciting new world around her. Nina, placing a tender hand on Lisa's shoulder, asked with a voice tinged with both exhilaration and nervousness, "Well, what do you think, sweetheart?" Lisa tilted her head thoughtfully. "It's different," she replied, her gaze drawn to the majestic tree. "But I like it. Can we put a swing on it?" Nina's laughter, tinged with relief, eased some of the tension coiled in her heart. "We'll see, darling. Maybe once we're all settled in." Malcolm, Lisa's father, arrived, his brow damp with sweat. "That's the last of the boxes," he declared with a weary but hopeful grin. "How about we order some pizza and call it a day?" As they stepped into their new home, the Johnson family couldn't ignore the probing stares from their new neighbors. They were, after all, the only black family on the street, and possibly in the entire neighborhood. Each glance seemed to weigh heavily, underscoring the subtle and unspoken challenges that lay ahead. Later that evening, they gathered around a box serving as a makeshift table, the aroma of pizza filling the room with a sense of comfort and normalcy. Malcolm raised his slice in a heartfelt toast. "To new beginnings," he said, his voice imbued with warmth and optimism. Nina and Lisa joined in, their pizza slices clinking softly in a hopeful gesture of unity. As they savored their meal, The conversation turned to their dreams and aspirations for this new chapter in their lives. "I'm so excited to set up my home office," Nina said, her eyes alight with enthusiasm. "No more grueling commutes. I'll be able to focus on my designs right here." Malcolm beamed with pride, his gaze filled with admiration. "And I know you'll dazzle them at the new firm," he said, referring to his job in the city. "The commute's a bit of a hassle, but the opportunity is worth every mile." Lisa, her mouth full of gooey cheese and savory pepperoni, chimed in. "What about my new school? Do you think I'll make friends?" Nina and Malcolm exchanged a fleeting look, their smiles dimming slightly. "Of course you will, sweetie," Nina reassured her, her voice tender yet resolute. "You're smart, kind, and funny. The other kids will see how special you are. Just be yourself, Lisa. That's all you need to do," Malcolm added, his tone firm yet comforting. As the evening progressed, their voices filled the empty house with a semblance of warmth and life. They talked about their hopes for the future, the adventures they might embark on, and the memories they hoped to forge in their new home. Yet, beneath the surface of their excitement lingered an undercurrent of apprehension. They were stepping into uncharted territory, a predominantly white neighborhood that might not extend the welcome they so earnestly hoped for. Nina and Malcolm had weighed their decision extensively before making the move, balancing the promise of better opportunities against potential social challenges. "We're doing this for Lisa," Malcolm had said during one of their late-night talks, his voice laced with determination. "Better schools, safer streets. She deserves every chance we can give her." Nina had agreed with unwavering resolve. Yet now, as she looked around their new living room, cluttered with boxes and unfamiliar shadows, a pang of anxiety tugged at her heart. Would they truly be embraced here? Would Lisa find her place and flourish? Sensing her mother's unease, Lisa nestled close on the couch, her small hand finding Nina's. "I'm glad we're here together," she said softly, her voice a gentle balm to Nina's troubled thoughts. Nina squeezed her daughter's hand, feeling a rush of love and protectiveness. "Me too, baby," she whispered, her voice steady despite the turmoil inside. "Me too." The Johnson family spent the remainder of the evening methodically unpacking and setting up essentials for their new beginning. Tomorrow loomed large with the promise of fresh starts and new challenges. Malcolm's first day at his new job, and, more poignantly, Lisa's debut at her new school. As Nina tucked Lisa into bed amid the sea of boxes that still cluttered her room, she paused to brush a stray lock of hair from her daughter's face. "Are you excited about tomorrow?" she asked softly. Lisa's wide eyes reflected a mix of anticipation and trepidation. "A little nervous too," she confessed, her voice barely above a whisper. "That's completely okay," Nina reassured her, her voice warm and soothing. "Feeling nervous about new things is normal. But remember, you're incredibly brave and strong. You can do this." Lisa's anxiety seemed to melt away in the glow of her mother's comforting gaze. She smiled and whispered, "Thanks, Mom. I love you. I love you too, sweetheart. Sweet dreams," Nina replied, kissing her daughter's forehead. As Nina closed the door to Lisa's room, she leaned against the wall, taking a deep, steadying breath. Her heart brimmed with hope, praying that tomorrow would usher in something truly wonderful for her family, especially for Lisa. In their bedroom, Nina found Malcolm already settled in bed, his brow furrowed in concentration as he checked his phone for the umpteenth time. "Still double-checking the route to work?" she asked, slipping under the covers beside him. Malcolm set the phone aside and offered a reassuring chuckle. "Just making sure I don't get lost on my first day," he said, his tone lightening. Then, with a more serious note, he asked, "How's Lisa?" "Nervous but excited," Nina replied. "I think she'll be just fine." Malcolm pulled her close, his embrace both comforting and reassuring. "And how about you?" Nina nestled into his arms, a sigh escaping her lips. "I'm the same, nervous but excited," she admitted, her voice softening. "I hope we made the right choice, Malcolm." "We did," he said firmly, his voice steady and confident. "It might be tough at first, But as long as we're together, we can face anything. As they drifted into sleep, the house around them settled with creaks and sighs, adjusting to its new inhabitants. Outside, the stars shimmered in the twilight sky, whispering promises of fresh beginnings, challenges, and triumphs yet to come. If you're still tuned into this video and find the story inspiring, drop a 1 in the comments to let me know you're still with me. The next morning, the early sun cast long, golden shadows across the driveway as Nina and Malcolm stood with Lisa, waiting for the school bus. Lisa clutched her new backpack with a mixture of excitement and apprehension, her eyes scanning the street for the approaching bus. "Do you have your lunch?" Nina asked, smoothing Lisa's hair for what seemed like the 10th time. Lisa nodded, her small hand patting her backpack. "And my notebook and pencils." "Then you're all set, champ," Malcolm said gently, kneeling to meet Lisa's eyes. "Remember what we talked about?" Lisa's face grew serious as she solemnly recited, "Be me, be kind, and if anything makes me uncomfortable, tell a teacher or you guys right away." Malcolm's face softened with pride as he pulled her into a quick hug. "That's my girl," he said warmly. The distant rumble of an engine pulled their attention as the yellow school bus turned the corner. Nina felt her heart race, a mixture of anticipation and dread coiling in her chest. The bus rolled to a stop, its doors creaking open. The driver, a middle-aged white man with graying hair, peered down at them. For a fleeting moment, surprise flickered across his face before he masked it with a neutral expression. "Good morning," he greeted with a polite but distant tone. "You must be new to the route." Nina managed a smile that felt both forced and fragile. "Yes, we just moved in. This is Lisa. She'll be riding with you." The driver nodded curtly. "Welcome aboard, Lisa. I'm Mr. Miller." Lisa hesitated, casting one last glance at her parents. Nina gave her an encouraging nod, while Malcolm whispered, "You've got this, sweetheart." Taking a deep breath, Lisa climbed the steps. As she disappeared into the bus, Nina and Malcolm caught a glimpse of the other children inside. Most seemed curious, a few offered tentative smiles, but a couple wore expressions that made Nina's stomach tighten with unease. As the bus pulled away, Nina and Malcolm stood hand in hand, watching it until it vanished around the corner. "She'll be fine," Malcolm said, squeezing Nina's hand reassuringly, though the uncertainty in his voice mirrored the anxiety gnawing at Nina's heart. The day dragged painfully for Nina. She attempted to immerse herself in setting up her home office, but her thoughts incessantly drifted to Lisa. Was she making friends? Were the teachers kind? Did she feel out of place? When the time finally came for Lisa's return, Nina found herself pacing by the window, her heart pounding with worry. The familiar rumble of the bus engine prompted her to rush to the door. Lisa bounded down the steps, her backpack bouncing with each step. Nina's heart lifted at the sight of her daughter's beaming smile. "Hi, Mom," Lisa called out, waving enthusiastically as she ran up the driveway. "Hi, sweetie. How was your first day?" Nina asked, enveloping Lisa in a warm hug. Lisa's excitement was palpable as she recounted her day. Her friendly teacher, the girl she sat next to at lunch, and the thrilling playground equipment. Nina listened, a wave of relief washing over her. It seemed as if Lisa's day had gone well. That evening, as the family gathered around the dinner table, Lisa animatedly shared more stories from her day. Malcolm, freshly home from his first day at the new job, listened with rapt attention, his face lighting up with smiles and laughter at Lisa's vibrant descriptions. Just as the conversation lulled, Lisa suddenly remarked, "Our bus driver is rude." Nina and Malcolm exchanged startled glances. "What do you mean, honey?" Nina asked, her voice gentle but laced with concern. Lisa shrugged, her demeanor shifting to discomfort. "He just says mean things sometimes," she mumbled, then quickly diverted the conversation to ask Malcolm about his new office. Nina caught Malcolm's eye over Lisa's head, seeing her unease mirrored there. But they chose not to push it, not wanting to cast a shadow over Lisa's otherwise cheerful first day. Later that night, as they prepared for bed, Malcolm broached the subject. What do you think Lisa meant about the bus driver? Nina sighed, settling onto the edge of the bed. I'm not sure. It might be nothing. Maybe he's just a bit gruff. But it could be something, Malcolm finished for her, the concern evident in his voice. Should we ask her more about it? Nina questioned, her brow furrowed. Nina shook her head. Not yet. Let's give it a few days and see if she brings it up again. We don't want to make her anxious if it turns out to be nothing. Malcolm nodded, but the worry etched into his forehead was unmistakable. Nina shared that uneasy feeling, that unsettling sense that something was off. For now, all they could do was observe and wait. As they settled into bed, Nina found herself staring at the ceiling, her mind consumed by Lisa's words. He just says mean things sometimes. What kind of mean things and why? The questions swirled in her mind, preventing sleep from coming easily. The weeks following seemed to establish a routine. Malcolm left early each morning for his lengthy commute to the city, while Nina worked diligently from her newly organized home office. Lisa continued to ride the bus to and from school, and their new house began to feel like home. Yet beneath the surface of this newfound normalcy, Nina couldn't shake a growing sense of apprehension. She observed subtle shifts in Lisa's demeanor. The once bubbly, effervescent girl who had eagerly shared every detail of her school days now offered only brief, vague replies when asked about her day. One afternoon, as Nina took a break from her work, she discovered Lisa sitting by the living room window, gazing outside with a distant, forlorn expression. Lisa, Nina called gently, "Is everything okay?" Lisa jolted slightly as if emerging from deep, troubled thoughts. "Yeah, Mom, I'm fine," she replied, though her smile seemed strained and didn't quite reach her eyes. Nina sat beside her daughter, her hand soothingly brushing through Lisa's hair. "You know you can talk to me about anything, right? If something's bothering you at school, or with friends, or—" She trailed off, hoping Lisa would provide more details. But Lisa merely nodded and leaned into her mother's comforting touch, remaining silent. Lisa looked between her parents, sensing the tension that hung heavily in the air. "It was okay," she replied, her voice small. She took a bite of her food, her gaze shifting uneasily as she picked at her plate. Nina and Malcolm exchanged glances, the earlier argument still simmering between them. Nina felt a pang of guilt for pushing Malcolm too hard, but her concern for Lisa overshadowed her frustration. Malcolm, for his part, felt a mix of regret and defensiveness, unsure of how to navigate the growing rift between them. As dinner continued, the conversation remained stilted. Lisa made an effort to engage, but the tension between her parents made it difficult for her to relax. The usual comfort of family meals felt distant and strained. After dinner, Malcolm retreated to his study, needing a moment alone to decompress. Nina found herself lingering in the kitchen, feeling the weight of the day's events pressing down on her. She considered checking on Lisa, but the memory of her earlier confrontation with Malcolm made her hesitant. Instead, Nina decided to take a walk outside to clear her mind. The cool night air was refreshing, and she walked slowly, trying to calm her racing thoughts. She wondered if Malcolm's reaction was a sign of his stress, or if he genuinely didn't see the seriousness of Lisa's situation. As she walked, Nina resolved to find a way to address the issue without escalating the situation further. She knew she needed Malcolm's support, but she also knew she couldn't ignore Lisa's well-being. If you're still tuned into this video and find the story inspiring, drop a 2 in the comments to let me know you're still with me. When Nina returned home, Malcolm was back in the kitchen, tidying up. His earlier frustration had faded, replaced by a somber expression. "Nina," he said quietly, "I'm sorry about earlier. I shouldn't have dismissed your concerns like that. It's just been a rough week, and I guess I didn't handle it well." Nina's heart softened at his apology. "I understand," she said, "but we need to address this. Lisa's acting differently, and I'm worried. We need to be a team on this." Malcolm nodded, rubbing the back of his neck. "You're right. I guess I was trying to avoid adding to the stress. But if something's going on with Lisa, we need to figure it out together." Nina nodded, feeling a sense of relief at Malcolm's willingness to listen. "Thank you. I think we should talk to her again and see if she's willing to share more. And maybe, if necessary, we should consider talking to the school or someone who can help." Malcolm agreed. "Let's do that. I want to make sure Lisa feels safe and supported." The tension between them eased as they began to work together towards a solution. Nina and Malcolm knew that their daughter's well-being was paramount, and they were determined to address the issue with understanding and care. Later that night, as Lisa prepared for bed, Nina approached her gently. "Sweetheart," she said, "I know things have been a bit strange lately. I want you to know that if anything's bothering you, you can always talk to me. Okay?" Lisa looked at her mother, her eyes reflecting a mixture of relief and hesitance. "Okay, Mom, I'll try." Nina smiled, hugging her daughter tightly. "Good night, Lisa. I love you." "I love you too, Mom," Lisa replied, her voice muffled against Nina's shoulder. As Nina closed Lisa's door and headed to bed, she felt a renewed sense of hope. She knew that the road ahead would be challenging, but with Malcolm's support and a commitment to addressing Lisa's concerns, she felt more equipped to face whatever came their way. Nina arrived home feeling both relieved and unsettled. Her observations seemed to contradict her fears, but the feeling of unease remained. She wasn't sure if her anxieties were influencing her perceptions or if there was something deeper at play. As she went about her morning routine, Nina tried to keep her mind occupied with mundane tasks, but her thoughts kept drifting back to Lisa and Mr. Miller. It was clear she couldn't just dismiss her concerns without further investigation. Determined to get a clearer picture, Nina decided to visit the school. She told herself it was just to meet Lisa's teacher and discuss her progress, which would also allow her to see the environment where her daughter spent her days. It was a plausible excuse, and it would provide a legitimate reason for her visit. When Nina arrived at the school, she approached the main office with a composed demeanor. She introduced herself and explained that she was new to the area and wanted to meet with Lisa's teacher to discuss her adjustment and progress. The school secretary, a kind woman with a warm smile, directed Nina to Ms. Parker's classroom. Nina took a deep breath and knocked lightly before entering. Ms. Parker, a middle-aged woman with an approachable manner, welcomed Nina with a friendly greeting. "Mrs. Johnson, it's nice to meet you," Ms. Parker said as she extended her hand. "How can I help you today?" Nina smiled, shaking Ms. Parker's hand. "Thank you for meeting with me. I just wanted to touch base about Lisa's adjustment to her new class. She's mentioned a few things that have me a bit concerned, and I thought it might be helpful to get your perspective." Ms. Parker's expression softened with understanding. "Of course, Lisa has been doing well academically. She's a bright student and gets along with the other children. Socially, she's been a bit reserved, but that's not unusual with a big move. Have you noticed anything specific that's been troubling her?" Nina hesitated, trying to gauge how much to share. "Well, she's mentioned some things about the bus driver that I found concerning. I'm not sure if it's just part of the adjustment or if there's something more going on." Ms. Parker's brow furrowed slightly. "I haven't heard any specific complaints from Lisa about the bus driver, but I can understand your concern. Sometimes kids are hesitant to talk about issues that make them uncomfortable. If you think it would be helpful, I can keep an eye out and check in with Lisa periodically." Nina felt a sense of relief at Ms. Parker's willingness to help. "That would be wonderful. I appreciate your support. And if there are any issues or if Lisa seems particularly distressed, please let me know." "Absolutely," Ms. Parker assured her. "I'll keep you updated." As their meeting concluded, Nina thanked Ms. Parker and left the classroom feeling a bit more reassured. As she walked back to her car, she glanced at the bus parked outside, its bright yellow color almost mocking her unease. Nina resolved to continue monitoring the situation closely. She would remain vigilant but also try to avoid letting her anxiety affect Lisa's adjustment to her new school. For now, she hoped that her efforts to understand the situation better would provide clarity and, ultimately, ensure her daughter's safety and happiness. Nina tried to relax as she engaged in conversation with Sarah, hoping to glean some insight or validation for her concerns. "So, how are you finding the neighborhood so far?" Sarah asked, her tone genuinely curious. It's been a bit of an adjustment, Nina admitted. We're settling in, but there are a few things I'm still getting used to. Sarah nodded sympathetically. I can understand that. Moving can be a challenge, especially for the kids. How's Lisa adjusting to her new school? Nina hesitated, weighing her words carefully. She's having some trouble, I think. I'm just worried about her. Sarah's expression grew concerned. Oh, what's been going on? Nina took a deep breath. Well, Lisa mentioned a few things about her bus driver being rude. I've noticed she's been a bit withdrawn lately, and I'm not sure what's going on. I tried talking to her about it, but she doesn't seem to want to open up. Sarah's brow furrowed. That's concerning. I know Mr. Miller, the bus driver, and he's been driving these routes for years. He's generally well regarded, but I suppose people can have off days. Have you spoken with anyone else about it, like the school? Nina nodded. I have, but I didn't get much feedback. I'm trying to figure out if there's something more serious going on. Sarah looked thoughtful. If you're worried, it might be worth keeping an eye on things. Sometimes kids can be sensitive, and there could be a lot of factors at play. You might also consider talking to other parents or even the school's counselor to see if they've noticed anything. Nina appreciated Sarah's advice and felt a bit more validated. Thank you. I think I'll do that. As Lisa finished her time on the swings and came over, Sarah smiled at her. It's always nice to see kids enjoying the park. Do you like it here? Lisa nodded shyly. Yeah, it's nice. Sarah patted Lisa's shoulder gently. That's great to hear. Well, it was nice talking with you, Nina. If you ever need anything or want to chat, feel free to stop by. Nina thanked Sarah and watched as she walked away, feeling a bit more reassured but still uncertain. As they headed home, Nina resolved to keep monitoring the situation and perhaps reach out to other parents as Sarah suggested. That evening, when Malcolm came home, Nina shared her conversation with Sarah. Malcolm listened, his expression softening as he absorbed the information. You talked to one of the neighbors? Malcolm asked, looking thoughtful. Yes, Sarah. She seemed genuinely concerned and suggested I might want to talk to other parents or the school counselor. Nina explained. Malcolm sighed. Okay, maybe I've been too quick to dismiss your concerns. Let's see if we can get more information and figure this out. Nina felt a surge of relief. It was a step in the right direction, and she appreciated Malcolm's willingness to reconsider. She decided to follow through with talking to the school counselor and possibly reaching out to other parents. As the days went by, Nina continued to gather information, trying to piece together the puzzle of Lisa's discomfort and the bus driver's behavior. The truth was slowly revealing itself, but it was proving to be more complex and troubling than she had anticipated. The support from Malcolm and the insights from her neighbor were crucial in navigating the situation. But Nina knew that the journey to uncover the full story was far from over. The incident with Sarah had left Nina feeling shaken and more determined than ever to protect her daughter. The unprovoked hostility she faced made it clear that there were deeper issues in the neighborhood, and she couldn't ignore the underlying tension and prejudice that might be influencing how Lisa's concerns were being handled. As she sat alone in the living room, Nina reflected on her options. She knew she needed to approach the situation carefully, especially given the volatile reaction she had just encountered. The fear of being dismissed or facing more hostility was daunting, but she couldn't let it deter her. Her primary focus remained on Lisa's safety and well-being. The following morning, Nina decided to take a more proactive approach. She reached out to other parents at the school through the Parent-Teacher Association, asking them discreetly if they had any concerns or had heard anything about Mr. Miller. She aimed to gather a broader perspective without directly accusing anyone. At the same time, Nina made an appointment with the school counselor, Ms. Thompson, to discuss her concerns about Lisa. She wanted to ensure that the counselor was aware of the situation and could offer any additional support or insights. When she met with Ms. Thompson, Nina recounted her observations and the troubling conversation with Sarah. Ms. Thompson listened attentively, nodding thoughtfully. I understand your concerns, she said gently. I'll keep an eye on Lisa and make sure to check in with her regularly. It's important that she feels safe and supported. Feeling slightly reassured, Nina left the school with a renewed sense of purpose. She hoped that by involving the counselor, She could provide Lisa with a safe space to talk about her feelings and experiences. If you're still tuned into this video and find the story inspiring, drop a 3 in the comments to let me know you're still with me. As days passed, Nina continued to monitor the situation closely. She made sure to stay in touch with other parents and sought their feedback. To her relief, some parents expressed similar concerns about Mr. Miller's behavior, though they had been hesitant to speak up. This validated Nina's fears and gave her the confidence to push further. Nina also took extra care to maintain open lines of communication with Lisa, making sure her daughter knew she was always there to listen. She encouraged Lisa to share any concerns, no matter how small they seemed. One evening, as Nina was helping Lisa with her homework, Lisa hesitated before speaking. "Mom, can I tell you something?" Nina's heart skipped a beat. "Of course, sweetie. What's on your mind?" Lisa looked down at her hands, and then up at Nina. "The bus driver, he's been saying things to me that I don't like. Sometimes he makes me feel small." Nina's chest tightened with a mix of relief and dread. She had suspected this might be the case, but hearing it from Lisa directly made it all the more real. "I'm so glad you told me," Nina said softly. "You don't have to put up with anyone being mean to you. We'll figure this out together." Lisa nodded, her eyes bright with unshed tears. "Thank you, Mom. I just didn't want to make things worse." Nina hugged her tightly. "You're brave for speaking up. We'll get this sorted out." Later that evening, Nina confided in Malcolm about Lisa's admission and the additional feedback she had received from other parents. Malcolm listened, his expression changing from skepticism to concern as he absorbed the information. "I had no idea things were this bad," he admitted. "I'm sorry for not taking your concerns seriously before. Let's work together on this." Nina felt a surge of gratitude. With Malcolm's support and the counselor's involvement, she felt better equipped to address the issue. Together, they planned to meet with the school administration to ensure that Lisa and other students were safe and that appropriate measures were taken regarding Mr. Miller's behavior. As they moved forward, Nina remained committed to ensuring Lisa's safety and well-being. The road ahead was uncertain, but with determination and support from those around her, Nina was resolved to uncover the truth and protect her daughter, no matter what challenges lay ahead. Malcolm wrapped his arms around Nina, trying to offer some comfort amid the storm of fear and guilt that enveloped them. "We'll get through this," he said firmly, though his voice trembled. "Let's focus on what we can do right now." Nina nodded, trying to steady her breathing. They both knew they had to act quickly and methodically. Malcolm immediately began making calls to local authorities and the bus depot, while Nina tried to keep her mind focused on practical steps. She called Lisa's friends and neighbors, hoping someone might have seen her or know something. As they worked together to gather information, the reality of their situation began to sink in. The sense of normalcy Nina had been clinging to just hours before had been shattered, replaced by a desperate search for their daughter. The police arrived within a short time, taking down all the details they could gather about Lisa's disappearance. They assured Nina and Malcolm that they would do everything in their power to find her and advised them to wait for further instructions. The officers began their search in the neighborhood and the nearby areas, canvassing and questioning anyone who might have seen Lisa or the school bus. Nina and Malcolm sat in their living room, waiting for updates, their minds racing through every possible scenario. Each minute felt like an eternity as they clung to the hope that Lisa would be found safe and sound. Hours later, just as the night was settling in, the phone rang. Nina's heart leaped into her throat as she grabbed the receiver. "Hello, Mrs. Johnson?" a voice said. "We've found your daughter." The relief that washed over Nina was immediate, but it was accompanied by a new wave of anxiety. "Is she okay? Where is she?" The officer on the other end of the line gave her the address of a nearby park, where Lisa had been found by a passerby. "She's safe and unharmed, but she's very shaken up. We suggest you come down here to be with her." Nina's knees nearly gave out, but Malcolm helped her to the car, and they rushed to the park. When they arrived, they saw Lisa sitting on a bench, wrapped in a blanket, and talking to a sympathetic officer. Her face was pale and her eyes red, but she looked up with a mixture of relief and apprehension as her parents approached. Nina scooped Lisa into her arms, her tears mixing with Lisa's. "Oh, sweetheart, I was so worried. I'm so glad you're safe." Lisa clung to her mother, her voice trembling. I didn't know what to do. The bus driver took us to a different place. He said there was a problem with the route." Malcolm's face hardened. "What do you mean, he took you to a different place?" Lisa explained that Mr. Miller had made a detour from the usual route. He had stopped at a secluded area, saying there was an issue with the bus. The other children had been frightened, and Lisa had felt uneasy. They had all been waiting there until someone happened by and called for help. The realization hit Nina like a punch to the gut. Her fears about Mr. Miller's behavior had been confirmed in the worst possible way. She had trusted him to safely transport her daughter, and now it was clear that something had gone wrong. Once Lisa was safely in the car, Malcolm and Nina began making plans to address the situation. They would need to contact the school and the bus company and possibly seek legal advice. This was no longer just about a troubled bus ride. It was about ensuring the safety of their daughter and potentially others who might be at risk. As they drove home, Nina's thoughts were filled with a mix of relief, anger, and determination. The events of the day had brought to light the severe issues they needed to address. The quiet, idyllic neighborhood they had hoped to find peace in was now a battleground for their family's safety and trust. The crisis had exposed deep-seated problems that would need to be confronted head-on. Nina and Malcolm were prepared to fight for their daughter and make sure that no one else had to go through what Lisa had experienced. The truth, as harsh as it was, had set them on a path they hadn't anticipated, but they were resolved to face whatever came next with unwavering courage and commitment. Lisa continued, her voice trembling but determined. "He made comments about how people like us shouldn't be in this neighborhood. He said that people like my mom and dad are troublemakers and that we should just go back where we came from." The room grew colder as Lisa's words painted a grim picture of the bus driver's behavior. Malcolm and Na exchanged another glance, this one filled with a mix of anger and resolve. Na's heart ached at the thought of her daughter being subjected to such cruelty, and Malcolm's jaw tightened with frustration. "Is there more?" Malcolm asked gently, trying to keep his voice steady. Lisa nodded, her eyes brimming with tears. "He would sometimes delay the bus, or make us wait at strange places. He didn't let us use the bus until he was ready. Once, he even told me that people like me should be careful because this neighborhood isn't meant for us." Na's breath caught in her throat. The implications of Mr. Miller's actions were clear now. He wasn't just making a few hurtful remarks. He was actively creating a hostile environment for Lisa and possibly other children. Did he ever do anything else? Did he ever touch you or do anything that made you feel unsafe? Lisa shook her head, tears spilling over. "No, he never touched me, but he made me feel really scared and uncomfortable. I didn't know what to do, and I didn't want to tell anyone because I thought they wouldn't believe me." Na pulled Lisa closer, her tears falling as she tried to process the depth of what her daughter had been through. "Oh, Lisa, I'm so sorry. We should have listened sooner. We're going to make this right, I promise." Malcolm was already on the phone, calling the police and the school district to report the abuse and ensure that Mr. Miller would be removed from his position. The urgency in his voice conveyed the gravity of the situation. Na sat beside Lisa, gently holding her and whispering reassurances. As they waited for the authorities to arrive, Malcolm and Na discussed their next steps. They knew they needed to take immediate action not only to protect Lisa but to ensure that no other children would suffer in the same way. They resolved to meet with the school administration and press for a thorough investigation, determined to hold those responsible accountable and advocate for necessary changes to protect their community. The night wore on with a mix of action and waiting. The police came, taking Lisa's statement and promising to investigate further. The school district was contacted and assured them that they would take swift action. Although the road ahead was uncertain, and the process of seeking justice would be long and arduous, Malcolm and Na were united in their resolve. Their family had been thrust into a difficult and painful situation, but through it all, they were driven by a fierce determination to protect their daughter and demand accountability. As they settled in for the night, the weight of the day's events began to sink in. They knew that their fight was just beginning, but they were prepared to face it with strength and solidarity. In the quiet of their home, with Lisa finally safe and the immediate threat addressed, Na and Malcolm held their daughter close, finding solace in their unity and in their shared commitment to making their neighborhood a better place for everyone. Malcolm took a deep breath, his anger simmering just beneath the surface. "Lisa, the police are going to take this very seriously. They'll investigate everything, and we'll make sure your voice is heard. You're not alone in this." He reached for his phone again, dialing the local authorities. As he spoke with the dispatcher, providing the details of Lisa's situation, Na held Lisa close, whispering soothing words to calm her trembling frame. After ending the call, Malcolm turned to Na. "They're sending an officer over to take a statement and start an investigation. We'll need to give them all the information we have and support Lisa through this." Na nodded, her mind racing through the steps they needed to take. "We'll also need to notify the school, report Mr. Miller's actions to them, and demand immediate action. They need to be held accountable for not catching this sooner." Lisa looked up at her parents with tear-streaked cheeks. "What if they try to say it's my fault?" Malcolm shook his head, his voice firm and reassuring. "It's not your fault, and we won't let them make you feel that way. You've done nothing wrong. We're going to make sure everyone knows the truth." As they awaited the police, Na and Malcolm worked together to document every detail of Lisa's experiences. They made notes of the dates and incidents Lisa had described, preparing a comprehensive account for the authorities. They also reached out to other parents in the neighborhood, hoping to find any additional evidence or witnesses who might have observed Mr. Miller's behavior. When the officer arrived, Na and Malcolm guided Lisa through giving her statement. The officer was compassionate and professional, taking care to ensure that Lisa felt safe and heard. Na and Malcolm stayed close by, offering their support and reassurance throughout the process. The investigation into Mr. Miller began immediately, with the authorities interviewing other students and parents and reviewing records. Na and Malcolm found themselves drawn into a whirlwind of meetings, reports, and discussions with both the police and school officials. They were determined to see justice served and to advocate for their daughter and any other children who might have been affected. As days turned into weeks, the impact of their actions began to ripple through the community. Parents and neighbors who had initially been silent started to speak up, sharing their own experiences and concerns. The school district took immediate steps to address the issue, suspending Mr. Miller pending the outcome of the investigation and reviewing their policies and practices to prevent future incidents. If you're still tuned into this video and find the story inspiring, drop a 4 in the comments to let me know you're still with me. Na and Malcolm's commitment to seeking justice for Lisa not only aimed to hold Mr. Miller accountable, but also to create a safer, more inclusive environment for all students. They faced resistance and challenges, but their determination never wavered. Through their efforts, they worked to ensure that no child would have to endure the same fear and isolation that Lisa had faced. The experience was grueling, but it also forged a deeper bond within their family. Lisa, while still shaken by the events, began to regain her confidence and sense of security, bolstered by the unwavering support of her parents. Na and Malcolm emerged from the crisis with a renewed sense of purpose, committed to fighting for justice and advocating for those who might otherwise be silenced. As the investigation continued and reforms were implemented, Na and Malcolm found solace in knowing that their actions had made a difference. They had faced a terrifying ordeal, but through their courage and resilience, they had not only protected their daughter but also helped to bring about change in their community. Officer Brooks stepped in, her tone calm and empathetic. "I understand your concerns, but what's important now is to make sure we have all the facts and evidence. We'll keep you updated on the progress of the investigation." Na took a deep breath, trying to steady her emotions. "I appreciate that, Officer Brooks, but I need to know that our daughter's safety is a priority and that this investigation is thorough. We can't afford to let this be brushed aside." Officer Thompson sighed, his expression softening a bit. "We'll take your concerns seriously. We understand how distressing this must be for you and your daughter. We'll make sure to follow up on every lead and get back to you with updates." With that, the officers left to investigate, leaving Na and Malcolm with their anxious thoughts. They sat down with Lisa, trying to comfort her as best they could. "We're going to do everything we can to make sure you're safe, Lisa," Na said softly. "You've been incredibly brave, and we're going to make sure this gets resolved." Malcolm nodded in agreement. "We'll be here every step of the way. We'll make sure Mr. Miller is held accountable for what he's done." As the night wore on, Na and Malcolm discussed their next steps. They planned to meet with the school administration to report Mr. Miller's actions and to advocate for stricter protocols to protect students. They also considered reaching out to local advocacy groups for support and guidance. Lisa, though still shaken, seemed to draw strength from her parents' unwavering support. She clung to them as they made plans, knowing that with their help, she wouldn't have to face this ordeal alone. The next day, Na and Malcolm went to the school to report the situation. They met with the principal, who listened with concern and promised to take immediate action. The principal assured them that the school would cooperate fully with the police investigation and that they would review their policies and procedures to ensure such incidents could be prevented in the future. In the days that followed, Na and Malcolm found themselves juggling meetings with the police, school officials, and advocacy groups. The investigation into Mr. Miller unfolded slowly but steadily. They received updates from Officer Brooks, who kept them informed about the progress of the case and assured them that Lisa's safety was a top priority. The community's response was mixed. Some neighbors expressed their support and concern, while others remained skeptical or outright hostile. Na and Malcolm faced prejudice and pushback from some quarters, but they remained resolute in their mission. They knew that their fight was not just about their daughter, but about standing up against injustice and ensuring a safer environment for all children. The investigation revealed troubling evidence of Mr. Miller's behavior, corroborated by Lisa's account and the testimonies of other students who came forward with their own experiences. The authorities took decisive action, leading to Mr. Miller's arrest and the suspension of his teaching license pending the outcome of legal proceedings. As the legal process unfolded, Na and Malcolm continued to support Lisa, helping her through therapy and ensuring she felt secure both at home and at school. The ordeal took a toll on the family, but their unity and determination saw them through the darkest moments. In the end, their perseverance paid off. The case brought about meaningful changes within the school system and the community, leading to improved safety measures and a heightened awareness of the issues surrounding discrimination and abuse. Na and Malcolm emerged from the experience with a renewed sense of purpose. They had faced immense challenges, but they had fought for what was right and had made a difference in their community. And as they looked at their daughter, now beginning to heal from her trauma, they knew that their efforts had been worth every struggle. The sight of Mr. Miller being led away in handcuffs was both a vindication and a painful reminder of the harsh realities they faced. Na and Malcolm's relief was tempered by the realization that their battle was just beginning. As they made their way back inside, they found Lisa curled up in a blanket, sleeping peacefully after the tumultuous day. The sight of their daughter's serene face brought a bittersweet comfort, a symbol of their hard-won victory, but also a reminder of the long road ahead. Na took Malcolm's hand, squeezing it tightly. "We've started something important here," she said softly. "But there's still so much to be done. We need to ensure that the changes we're fighting for are meaningful, and that our community becomes a place where every child can feel safe and valued." Malcolm nodded in agreement, his gaze steady. "We'll make sure Lisa's voice is heard, and we'll work with others who've faced similar issues. We need to push for better protections, not just for our daughter, but for every child." Na knew that their efforts would likely face resistance and that the path to systemic change would be challenging. However, the support they received from the neighborhood and the courage of other families who came forward gave her hope. They were no longer alone in their fight. They had allies and a growing community of voices demanding change. In the days that followed, Na and Malcolm threw themselves into advocacy. They worked with local organizations to push for policy changes and joined forces with other parents and community leaders. They attended meetings, shared their story, and lobbied for reforms to ensure better oversight and protections for students. Their activism also brought attention to the broader issues of racial discrimination and abuse within their community. They organized forums and workshops to educate others and to provide a support network for families facing similar challenges. The response was mixed, but the conversations sparked by their efforts were crucial. Lisa, supported by her parents, began to heal from her traumatic experiences. The family sought therapy together, and Lisa gradually opened up about her feelings and fears. With time, her confidence and sense of safety were restored, thanks in no small part to the unwavering support of her parents. Na and Malcolm's dedication to their cause began to make a difference. Policies were reviewed, and new measures were put in place to better protect children and address complaints of abuse. The investigation into Mr. Miller's actions led to important changes in how such cases were handled, with greater accountability and transparency. As the months passed, Na reflected on the journey they had undertaken. The fight for justice had been arduous, but it had also been empowering. They had turned their pain into a force for positive change, and their community was slowly becoming a safer, more inclusive place. Standing on her front porch once more, Na looked out at the neighborhood with a renewed sense of purpose. The road ahead was still long, but she was ready to walk it, knowing that their efforts had already made a significant impact. For Lisa, for every child who deserved to feel safe and valued, Na and Malcolm were committed to continuing their fight for justice and acceptance. The aftermath of Mr. Miller's arrest had transformed the Johnsons' lives in ways they hadn't anticipated. The media's relentless scrutiny was a constant reminder of the public's polarized opinions. Na watched from the window as reporters staked out their yard, their cameras and microphones capturing every detail. The quiet, secure neighborhood they had envisioned was now an arena for debate and contention. If you're still tuned into this video and find the story inspiring, drop a 5 in the comments to let me know you're still with me. Lisa's concern about the reporters was palpable, but Na tried to reassure her. The media storm, while overwhelming, was a necessary part of bringing their story to light. The headlines, though sensationalized, had sparked a broader conversation about racial injustice and discrimination. Malcolm's news about the prosecution moving forward with the case brought another wave of anxiety. The idea of Lisa testifying in court was daunting. The thought of her reliving her trauma was heart-wrenching, but Na and Malcolm understood the importance of their daughter's voice in the pursuit of justice. "We'll handle it when the time comes," Na reassured Malcolm. "For now, let's focus on making things as normal as possible for Lisa." As the weeks went by, Na and Malcolm found themselves at the forefront of a community grappling with the implications of Mr. Miller's actions. The emergency school board meeting they attended was a microcosm of the larger debate. Na's impassioned speech about addressing systemic biases and creating a safe environment for all children resonated with many. It was a pivotal moment that galvanized a group of parents to take action. The formation of the Diversity and Inclusion Committee was a hopeful sign. Na and Malcolm were encouraged by the collaborative effort to address the deeper issues. The committee's proposals for cultural sensitivity training and improved hiring practices were steps toward creating a more inclusive environment. At home, the focus remained on Lisa's healing. Finding a therapist who specializes in racial trauma was a significant step in helping Lisa navigate her feelings and regain her confidence. Na and Malcolm observed as their daughter, once again, began to show signs of her resilient and vibrant self. The surprise visit from Sarah, the neighbor who had initially been dismissive, was a moment of unexpected reconciliation. Sarah's apology was genuine, and Na recognized the importance of accepting it, even though it was difficult. "Thank you for saying that," Na responded, her voice steady. "It means a lot." The community's response was evolving, and changes began to take shape. The school's new policies, including surveillance on buses and an anonymous reporting system, were a direct result of the outcry. The trial of Mr. Miller, though painful, concluded with a conviction that brought some semblance of justice. On the day of the verdict, Na held Lisa close, feeling a profound mix of relief and pride. "You did it, baby," she whispered. "You were so brave, and you helped make sure he can't hurt anyone else." The verdict was a milestone, but Na and Malcolm knew their work was far from over. As they continued their advocacy, Na was determined to ensure that their community remained vigilant and proactive. The changes they had begun to implement were just the beginning. They continued to push for improvements and foster conversations about race, inclusion, and justice. The Johnson family's journey had been arduous, but their courage had sparked a necessary dialogue and led to meaningful changes. As Na looked out at the neighborhood from her porch, she felt a sense of cautious optimism. The road ahead was still long, but the steps they had taken were steps towards a more just and equitable community. For Lisa, for every child, and the future, Na and Malcolm were committed to continuing their fight for justice and acceptance. Lisa's smile was a beacon of hope as she waved from the school bus, her eyes bright and full of excitement. The new driver, a kind-faced woman of color, greeted each child with a warm and genuine smile. It was a stark contrast to the apprehensive glances that had once accompanied the morning routine. Lisa turned and waved to her mother before taking her seat, eagerly chatting with a diverse group of friends. Na's heart swelled with pride as she watched the bus pull away, carrying her daughter towards a new chapter in their lives. Standing on the porch, Na took in the full spectrum of their neighborhood's transformation. The once quiet street now hummed with a renewed sense of community and purpose. The vibrant colors of spring, with its blooming flowers and lush greenery, seemed to reflect the fresh beginnings that had taken root. The challenges they had faced and the hard-won changes were visibly shifting the atmosphere of their surroundings. Malcolm joined her on the porch, his presence a comforting anchor. The weeks had been a whirlwind of activity, with community meetings, media coverage, and the ongoing legal proceedings. Yet, through it all, they had managed to find moments of calm and reflection. Malcolm placed a reassuring hand on Na's shoulder, and they both took a moment to appreciate the tranquility of the spring day. Their neighborhood had transformed in many ways. The school board had implemented several new policies: cameras on all buses, a more thorough screening process for staff, and an anonymous reporting system for concerns. These changes were a direct response to the brave stand that Lisa and her family had taken. They had turned a painful experience into an opportunity for systemic change, showing their community the power of courage and advocacy. The Diversity and Inclusion Committee, which had been formed in the wake of Mr. Miller's arrest, was making strides. Parents from various backgrounds had come together to work on proposals for cultural sensitivity training, more diverse hiring practices, and a revised system for handling grievances. The committee's efforts were aimed at addressing not just the immediate issues but also the deeper, underlying biases that had allowed such incidents to occur. At home, Na and Malcolm had been focused on helping Lisa navigate her healing journey. They found a therapist who specialized in working with children who had experienced racial trauma. The sessions were helping Lisa process her experiences and begin to reclaim her sense of safety and confidence. Na often marveled at her daughter's resilience, watching as Lisa slowly returned to her vibrant, confident self. One afternoon, as Na was helping Lisa with her homework, there was a knock at the door. She opened it to find Sarah, the neighbor who had been so hostile in the park weeks ago. Sarah looked nervous and sincere as she spoke. "I owe you an apology," she said, her voice trembling slightly. "I was wrong to dismiss your concerns. I'm truly sorry for how I treated you." Na was taken aback by the unexpected gesture. For a moment, she felt a surge of conflicting emotions: anger, skepticism, and a flicker of hope. But then she thought of Lisa and the community they were striving to build. "Thank you for saying that," Na said, her voice steady but kind. "It means a lot to us." Sarah nodded and thanked Na before leaving, and Na felt a glimmer of hope for the future. It was a small step, but it was significant. It showed that the community was starting to grapple with its prejudices and that change, though slow, was possible. As the weeks turned into months, Na witnessed more such steps being taken throughout the community. There were new initiatives at the local school, community dialogues, and a growing willingness among neighbors to engage in conversations about race and inclusion. The school's implementation of the new policies, along with the community's increased awareness, marked a significant shift in how they were addressing and preventing discrimination. The trial of Mr. Miller came and went, with the testimonies of multiple families and the evidence gathered by the police leading to his conviction. On the day the verdict was announced, Na held Lisa close, whispering words of reassurance and pride. "You did it, baby. You were so brave, and you helped make sure he can't hurt anyone else." Lisa's smile, though tired, was filled with a new strength. "We did it, Mom. All of us, together," she said, her voice carrying a sense of accomplishment and hope. As spring continued to bloom, bringing new life and possibilities to the neighborhood, Na felt a cautious optimism. They had chosen to stay, to be part of the change they wanted to see, despite the ongoing challenges. There was still much work to be done, and the path to a truly inclusive community was far from complete. But for now, in this moment of peace and renewal, Na allowed herself to feel hopeful. She looked forward to a future where every child, including Lisa, could grow up feeling safe, valued, and at home. The journey had been arduous and fraught with difficulties, but it had led them to a place of transformation and possibility. Na knew that the work of creating a truly inclusive community was ongoing, but she was ready to embrace the future with hope and determination. For Lisa, for their family, and for every child who deserved to feel seen and respected, they had made a significant difference. The road ahead was filled with promise, and Na was committed to continuing the fight for justice and acceptance. As we wrap up today's story, we hope you found inspiration and insight in the Johnson family's journey. From facing intense challenges to sparking meaningful change in their community, their experience highlights the power of standing up for what's right and working together for a better future. What have you learned from this story? How can you apply these lessons in your own life to make a positive impact? We'd love to hear your thoughts. Please share one thing you've learned and how you plan to put it into practice in the comments below. If you like this video, please leave your comment, and don't forget to like, share, and subscribe to our YouTube channel for more content like this. Your support helps us bring more stories of courage and change to our community. Thank you for watching.